Missouri changed its tax code in 2024. Every dollar of Social Security income is now completely exempt from state income tax, regardless of what a retiree earns. Then they added a property tax freeze for homeowners aged 62 and older, locking the bill in at the year of qualification, so rising valuations cannot drain a fixed income. Two protections working together. One shielding income, one shielding the cost of staying put. A floor most popular retirement states do not offer. Built on top of that floor, 10 rural towns where some median home prices sit under $120,000 and annual property tax bills make the national average look like a different language. Ozark River towns, Missouri River history towns, reservoir towns with lake life at prices that should not be possible. Small towns with senior populations large enough that the entire community has organized itself around what a retiree actually needs. Here are 10 affordable rural Missouri towns retirees should know about. Kennett. Start at the bottom of the price chart and you end up in the Bootheel. Kennett's home price to income ratio is 2.39. One of the lowest in Missouri. The average annual property tax is $733. The national median is roughly $2,400. With the senior property tax freeze, that $733 can be locked in permanently at the year of qualification. The instability that gradually pushes fixed income homeowners out of their own houses is removed from the equation entirely. The fear about a town this affordable is isolation, a low price tag attached to a place where nothing happens. Kennett runs outdoor concerts, seasonal festivals, and community sports events year-round. Southern hospitality in the Bootheel is not a marketing phrase. It is how neighbors actually behave. For someone arriving from a city where neighbors are strangers, that is not a compromise. For many retirees, it is the specific thing they have been trying to find. Poplar Bluff. The terrain north of the Bootheel starts to lift. That transition point has a name. Poplar Bluff, a revitalized downtown with breweries, local theater, and specialty shops, award-winning barbecue, the Black River nearby, and the Ozark National Scenic Riverways a short drive away. This is a regional hub with genuine civic life. And the property tax bill runs around $619 a year, which is actually lower than Kennett's, despite Poplar Bluff being a larger, more service-rich town. The median home value sits near $160,000. Commercial activity here funds municipal services, which keeps the pressure off residential property taxes. The town's economic base does some of the work so residents do not have to. The Scenic Riverways designation matters practically. That protected landscape does not get developed. The outdoor environment drawing retirees here now is the same environment that will be here in 20 years. For a retiree who wants amenities, nature access, and costs that belong on a different, cheaper map, Poplar Bluff puts all three in the same place. Carthage. There is a particular cognitive dissonance that comes with Carthage. You drive into a town with stunning Victorian architecture lining the streets, a limestone courthouse that has been called the most beautiful in the state, and a civic identity strong enough to attract thousands of visitors every autumn for the Maple Leaf Festival. And then you check the cost of living data and find a figure 14% below the national average. Those two things are not supposed to coexist. Walkable historic charm at well below average prices is the kind of combination that usually only exists before a town gets written up in a lifestyle magazine and discovered by buyers from more expensive markets. Carthage has been quietly avoiding that fate. The per capita income in Carthage runs around $20,713, which signals a middle-income community where services and housing costs are calibrated to what local residents can actually afford. 13% of the population is 65 or older, which means the retirement infrastructure is already here. The social networks, the senior-oriented activities, the community familiarity with what an older resident actually needs day to day. The Precious Moments Chapel sits within the town, offering a serene and distinctly personal landmark for those who find meaning in that kind of space. It adds to a broader sense that Carthage has decided what it values and built its community life around that, rather than chasing growth for its own sake. For a retiree who has lived somewhere expensive and beautiful, Carthage offers the beautiful part without the expensive part, and does so without asking for any sacrifices in community character. 13% of the population is already 65 or older. The social infrastructure for seniors, the networks, the activities, the community familiarity with what an older resident actually needs is already in place. A retiree arriving here is not building that from scratch. West Plains. The most common objection to rural retirement is medical access. It is not an unreasonable concern. Rural areas across the country have watched hospitals close, specialists consolidate in metro areas, and drive times to emergency care stretched to dangerous lengths. Any honest conversation about rural retirement has to address this head on. West Plains addresses it head on. Deep in the Ozark Plateau, West Plains serves as the primary service center for a 7-county region. That scale of responsibility requires real medical infrastructure, and the town has it. Ozarks Healthcare operates here with comprehensive specialist services, cardiac care, oncology, orthopedic treatment, the kind of care that most rural towns in America make residents drive an hour and a half to access is available within the town itself. That medical foundation changes the retirement calculus completely. The median home value in West Plains sits around $215,000. Modestly below the state median, but what that price includes is access to regional healthcare that typically comes only with metro area housing costs. Beyond the medical infrastructure, West Plains is the spiritual home of Ozark bluegrass and gospel music. Festivals run throughout the year and draw regional audiences. The Harlan Museum documents the history and culture of the plateau with genuine depth, giving residents a connection to place that goes beyond scenery. For a retiree moving into unfamiliar territory, that kind of cultural rootedness matters. It makes a new place feel less new. The median home value sits around $215,000, a reasonable price that includes access to specialist level medical care and year-round cultural programming that most rural towns at that price point simply cannot provide. West Plains earns its position as a regional hub, and retirees who choose it are buying into that infrastructure directly. Mexico. The numbers in Mexico, Missouri deserve a full pause. Median home value, $113,719. Annual property tax, $506 against a national median of roughly $2,400. Monthly rent for those who choose not to own, $489. This is not a town in obvious decline, offering distressed prices on neglected properties. Mexico is a centrally located community in Audrain County, positioned between Columbia, home of the University of Missouri, and Jefferson City, the state capital. Day trips in either direction access university events, state government services, cultural programming, and retail that a smaller town cannot sustain on its own. The town's historical identity as the saddle horse capital of the world gives it a refined mid-century character that is preserved in its architecture and community culture. This is not generic small town anywhere. It has a specific character and a specific pride in that character. The mechanism keeping prices this low is essentially that Mexico has not been discovered by outside buyers at scale. It is well located but not well publicized, and the result is a cost of living that allows a retiree to live comfortably on Social Security alone while maintaining genuine geographic connectivity. The two threats to retirement finances, housing costs and property taxes, are both dramatically suppressed here, and Missouri's 2024 exemptions layer on top of that foundation. The practical day-to-day reality of that geographic position is worth describing concretely. Columbia is 45 minutes east, which means access to a major university's cultural calendar, lectures, concerts, sporting events, without university town real estate prices. Jefferson City is 30 minutes west, which means state government services, specialized healthcare, and a regional airport are accessible without a half day. Commitment. Mexico provides the home base. The surrounding region provides everything a small town cannot self-sustain. Warsaw. Waterfront retirement carries a pricing premium almost everywhere. Lake towns that have been marketed to second home buyers, resort communities that charge for the view. The moment a body of water enters a real estate listing, the cost climbs accordingly. Warsaw has not received that memo, or has chosen to ignore it. The town sits at the headwaters of the Lake of the Ozarks and at the terminus of the Harry S. Truman Reservoir, placing it squarely at the intersection of two significant bodies of water: boating, fishing, swimming. The lake life that draws retirees to resort communities elsewhere in the country is simply the daily geography here. The water is not a marketed amenity, it is the backdrop. The median home value in Warsaw is $174,312, with entry-level options often available below that figure. Benton County's effective property tax rate runs at 0.98%, below both the state and national medians. The Warsaw Health and Rehabilitation Center provides local senior care, and regional hospitals in Osage Beach Beach and Sedalia are accessible within a reasonable drive. The gap between what Warsaw offers and what it charges is the entire story here. For a retiree who has spent years imagining a retirement near water but has been priced out of every obvious destination, Warsaw is what happens when that vision actually lands within budget. There is also a practical healthcare dimension that Warsaw handles well. The Warsaw Health and Rehabilitation Center provides local senior care within town. Osage Beach and Sedalia, both of which carry more substantial hospital infrastructure, are accessible within a reasonable drive. For a retiree whose primary concern about lakeside retirement is being isolated from medical services, Warsaw's regional positioning removes that objection. The water is there, the care is reachable, the price is real. Neosho. Neosho carries a nickname, the Flower Box City, that says something about what the community prioritizes. This is a town where clear springs flow through the center of the residential areas, where Big Spring Park functions as a year-round communal gathering space, and where the physical environment is treated as part of the civic identity rather than incidental to it. For a retiree transitioning out of a high-pressure urban environment, that kind of intentional calm is not a luxury. It is a specific need. Neosho provides it at a specific price. Average annual property tax is around $672, and a median household income around $38,214 that signals a genuinely accessible middle-income cost structure. The commercial life of the town, its pharmacies, grocery stores, medical offices, and local restaurants, exists at prices set for that income band, not for outside visitors. The safety profile here is worth stating directly. Violent crime rates in Neosho run significantly below the Missouri state average. Resident surveys consistently indicate high satisfaction with local law enforcement and community safety. For retirees evaluating a town they do not yet know, those numbers reduce the uncertainty considerably. The decision to relocate in retirement often carries enough unknowns, unfamiliar neighbors, unfamiliar roads, unfamiliar social networks, that a verifiably safe environment removes at least one layer of anxiety from the equation. The natural beauty here is not incidental. When clear springs run through a town center and a park anchored by those springs is the social gathering point, daily life has a specific character. Morning walks have a different quality when they run alongside moving water in a well-maintained civic space. Neosho has that, and it has maintained it without pricing it as a premium. Neosho is not a flashy destination. It is not trying to be discovered or developed. It is a quiet, physically beautiful, demonstrably safe town where the water runs clear through the middle of it, and the cost of being there remains within reach of a fixed income. Cameron. Not every retiree is slowing down. For the ones who are not, the hikers, the campers, the people who have been waiting decades to have the time to spend in the woods. Cameron in northern Missouri makes a specific case. Wallace State Park sits just outside town, 500 plus acres of woodland terrain with trails for hiking and mountain biking, camping facilities, and a lake for boating and fishing. This is not a decorative park designed for weekend picnics. It is substantive outdoor space for people who intend to use it seriously. The kind of retiree who spends the first year of retirement genuinely outdoors, not just talking about being outdoors, finds in Cameron a natural partner for that life stage. The median home listing price in Cameron sits around $250,000, which is higher than most towns on this list. That premium is real, and it is explained by two things: location and infrastructure. Cameron sits at the intersection of Interstate 35 and US Route 36, putting Kansas City under an hour away. That connectivity is not incidental. It means the town can sustain medical, commercial, and social infrastructure that more geographically isolated towns cannot. Cameron Regional Medical Center provides local hospital care, meaning an active outdoor lifestyle comes with medical oversight rather than a long drive to find it. The combination of these factors, wilderness access, highway connectivity, a functioning local hospital, and the broader context of Missouri's retirement tax protections, creates a retirement profile in Cameron that a certain type of retiree will find difficult to match anywhere else in the northern half of the state. The price is higher, and the reasons for it are legitimate. For a retiree who wants the small town pace, but is not willing to give up physical access to wilderness, and is not willing to be far from a metro if circumstances require it, Cameron threads that. Needle in northern Missouri. The price reflects the convenience, and for many retirees, that convenience is exactly what they are paying for. Dexter. Dexter has not arrived at its retirement-friendly reputation accidentally. Almost 21% of the town's population is 65 or older. That figure shapes everything. The services available, the social culture, the commercial infrastructure, the way the community understands itself. When nearly 1 in 4 residents is a senior, the town organizes around senior needs. Multiple assisted living facilities operate here, including Memory Lane of Dexter. The senior center functions as a genuine hub. Social events, health programming, daily activity, rather than a token facility that opens 3 days a week. The community fabric is built around the reality that a significant portion of its residents are navigating aging, and it has responded to that reality with practical investment. The median value of owner-occupied housing in Dexter sits at $137,200. The violent crime rate is 0.26%, nearly about half the state average. That combination of financial accessibility and physical safety is not easy to find in a single location. It is especially valuable for retirees who are moving to a town where they do not yet have an established social network, where the first months require building trust in unfamiliar surroundings. In Dexter, those surroundings have already been organized around exactly that process. The practical reality of a town with a large senior population is that the social integration point is lower. There are already established groups, existing activities, and neighbors who have gone through the same relocation calculus and are familiar with the questions a newcomer is likely to be carrying. For a retiree who wants to move somewhere and immediately find peers, support networks, and a community that understands what they need without requiring explanation, Dexter has built exactly that environment. It did not happen by accident. It happened because the demographics created a demand and the community chose to meet it. Ava. Some retirees are specifically looking to avoid the places other retirees have already found: the commercialized lake towns, the towns that got written up and promptly filled with vacation rentals, the places that used to be affordable before they were marketed as affordable. Ava, in Douglas County in southwestern Missouri, has remained genuinely off that radar. The town sustains an active art guild that produces and exhibits work by local artists year-round. The Pioneer Heritage Festival of the Ozarks celebrates the cultural roots of the region in a form that feels earned rather than performative. The Ozark landscape here is deep and specific: ridgelines, hardwood forests, and an agricultural tradition that goes back generations. The research describes a sense of oneness with that landscape that residents identify as central to what makes Ava different from more accessible towns. Healthcare is covered by Missouri Ozarks Community Health, providing localized primary care. The median home price sits around $235,000, which places it in the comfortable middle range of this list. Ava is not for everyone. It requires a certain disposition, a genuine preference for authenticity over amenity, for a community that has not been optimized for outsiders, for the kind of place where culture grows from within rather than being imported. For the retiree who carries that disposition and has been struggling to find somewhere that matches it, Ava is exactly what it looks like. The financial profile supports the life without calling attention to itself. The median home price, around $235,000, is in the comfortable middle of this list. Not the cheapest, but entirely reasonable for a town that is not trading on any external reputation or drawing outside buyer demand. Healthcare through Missouri Ozarks Community Health covers primary care needs locally. The Ozark Hills here are not a backdrop. They are the daily environment, and for a retiree who has spent decades living against concrete and noise, that shift has a value that does not show up in any cost of living index. Missouri did not become a retirement destination through marketing. It became one because the legislature decided to protect retiree income at the source. Social Security exempted completely from state tax in 2024. Property taxes frozen at the year you qualify once you hit 62. Those two mechanisms create a floor. The towns on this list are built on top of that floor, and what they offer is not the cheap version of retirement. It is the stable version. The Ozark towns offer nature and culture at prices that resist the resort premium. The river corridor towns offer history and connectivity at costs that have not caught up to their character. The Northern Plains towns offer the extreme affordability of places that function as genuine inflation bunkers, where debt can be eliminated, budgets simplified, and a fixed income stretched into something comfortable and even spacious. The towns themselves are not identical, and that is the point. A retiree who needs specialist level healthcare in a small town setting will find it in West Plains. A retiree who wants water water access without a waterfront premium will find it in Warsaw. A retiree who wants a community already organized around people their age will find that in Dexter. Retirement needs are not uniform. They are specific to the person doing the planning, and Missouri's variety means most retirees can find a town on this list that fits their particular version of what retirement is supposed to feel like. Retirees researching these towns will find they are not secret. Local populations already know what they have. The question is whether the retiree planning the next chapter of their life has done the math carefully enough to see that Missouri in 2025 is not a backup plan. For a growing number of people working through the retirement numbers, honestly, it is the primary one.